Welcome to the Dawg and Gus show now on Feel It Radio.
What's up, Dog?
Not much. You, Gus?
Oh, just a nice evening here in Manotick, Ontario.
Yeah, it's like, it's dark enough for 8 o'clock, but at 5 o'clock it was dark.
Yeah, it's pretty wild how quickly that happens. But who do we have here today? We have a lovely band.
We got 3 quarters. Is that the right math equation?
Correct. Yeah, great fraction.
Thank you very much.
Excellent work.
I failed grade 9 math.
Sharp as a bowling ball.
Yeah, sharp as a marble, this guy. Class of 91 are here to chat with us tonight.
What's up, guys?
Good evening.
Yeah, it's Ian, Brock, and Steve.
Or Steve, Ian, and Brock, depending on your first set.
For me, it's Brock, and then
Brock,
then
and then those other guys.
And then Steve. But that's only because that's my dude over there.
Yeah, I know.
The guy you buy coffee from.
Yeah, and he makes exactly who these two dudes.
Yeah,
he's like,
he brought some friends.
Because I remember talking to Brock. It was before when I went over to the Morning Owl, and I was like seeing these stickers, and it's like, oh, that's cool. Like a graduating class like made their own stickers and must have had like a reunion here. But I was like, who has a 30-second like school reunion? And so now I have to ask, where is the name? Did you guys all graduate together? Is that where that name comes from?
Yeah, that was our graduating year from high school.
Okay.
So Steve and I have known each other for a long time. And
very cool.
That's kind of where we.
It's funny you think that's a long time.
Well,
91.
It's long enough. Long enough.
Whatever.
32 years.
in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's go in the grand scheme of things.
That's the crazy thing, right? Like you listen to classic rock now and you're expecting to hear Zeppelin and stuff like that. And then of course, like the hat I'm wearing right now is Rage Against the Machine, but there'll be classic rock. And you're like, okay, that's that.
So what are we calling Zeppelin now then?
Ancient.
Antiqua rock.
Well, how about phenomenal?
Let's go with that.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Oh yeah.
I'm okay with that. I was listening to the album, guys. It's really excellent. I was telling you the song that I like the most, but how long did you obviously did the LP in 2020 and then you did one in 2022. Was it during COVID for the second one?
Yeah. So we actually finished our first one, Eyes on Fire. So we had all of our music was more or less recorded right as lockdown happened.
Yeah.
And then because we were a DIY band, we do everything ourselves. So then Steve and I had to basically troubleshoot, how do you record vocals via the internet from my studio to his studio?
Wow.
2 different locations, which we were able to figure that out somehow.
Fandangle a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, fandangle a little bit.
Yeah, it was a challenge which was not unsurmountable, but not easy either. So we got it worked out.
Yeah, but that's, at least you make it work the same way we're doing that with the mics right now.
Oops.
Yeah. We'll blame Dog for that one.
Because it's my fault.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
why. You can blame me all you want.
But no, so the two of you are the original band members, or did you kind of?
No, so Steve and I have known each other for a long time.
Okay.
So Class 91 as a band has been around since the summer of 2019. So we were, a couple more of us were a bit of a jam band. We got together after a fairly long sort of break from music, at least for myself, and then we just got back together just to make some racket and just play some cover songs and just kind of get back into playing music. And then that sort of evolved into the 4 of us. So Fred, our bass player, who could make it with us tonight, but we decided maybe let's just take a kick at trying to write some original music, which again had been something that I had done for a very, very long time. And that led to our first album, Eyes on Fire. And then Lost Stories was sort of like when we kind of more cemented as a band coming out of the pandemic, or at least
that's cool.
The first stage of it, and then we kicked the tires at that. So
that's cool.
Yeah, so
that's really nice.
That's the short history.
Yeah,
we wanted the long one. Right. We've got an hour. Well,
so did you guys all? Did you all know each other before, or did they? Obviously you guys went to school together, but where did you see Brock?
So Brock and I have just sort of known each other just through events, and we just got to know each other probably about 7-8 years ago, maybe a little plus or minus.
Yeah, about that. And of course, guitars was topical.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We bonded over music, and then Fred, our bass player, he and I know each other through our kids. Went to school together, and we bonded over music. So Steve and I had been talking about, it'd be nice to kind of get back together and play music. He and I were having the same conversation, and so that's sort of what led to it to happen. So it just worked out well for now.
And Brock was okay with the name?
Yeah, I'm not class of 91.
Very close.
But I'm pretty close.
You're honorary member.
Yeah, exactly. He was there at a couple extra years or something, right?
He's there on the 10-year plan.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't suspect that's the case. Brock has a book collection at the coffee shop.
Yeah, well, he can read. Great.
Well, but I grabbed the book. He's like, "Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one." Like he's like, "Oh, cool, nice." So I could tell that he's studious. You wouldn't know what that means, Dog. So
No, you're right. I work at a school. I had no idea what studious means.
got you going.
Oh, you sure did.
I find there's a hint, like you have your own sound, of course, but I was listening to it and I was just like very Foo Fighter-y.
Yeah, there's little Foo Fighters under the.
Yeah, like I found Rockin' and like maybe earlier Foo Fighters too. Like remember like I'll be around and all that. Like I'll stick around. Sorry, like that. Yeah, exactly. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely a little bit of that. Bob Gold, Husker Du Sugar was another comparison we get quite a bit.
Okay.
There's a lot under the hood there. So I know the sort of the sound, I guess, in the music that we've written sort of developed naturally. So we've had conversations, like having not played music for myself, it was about 25 years or so. I basically just parked the guitar for no particular reason, just life got in the way.
Yeah, you got kids and stuff. Yeah.
So
I know that.
To sort of pick it back up again and start to kind of go through the creative process of writing original music again. It's amazing the stuff that's it's in your musical DNA from that formative period, like of your mid to late teens, sort of like, and that's what sort of just kind of came out.
I just, because we have a question we ask every show, and I've already lost this one, and we're not even 10 minutes.
No, I don't think so.
I think so.
I don't think so.
Yeah,
I think I have a feeling.
Oh yeah,
because I prepped Brock a little.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, but he sort of got excited.
I'm not going to give up the ghost yet. You guys can ask the question, but I think
still
we're
got
both
45.
going to find some love.
Oh, okay, that's good. That's good.
There you go, doggy.
Yeah. It won't be a lonely drive home tonight.
Well, it will be, but it will be. At least you'll have a smile on your face. You know?
Oh, okay then.
Yeah, exactly. So, Steve, are you kind of like the techie guy of the group? Would you say? Is that where? And because the bassist is usually kind of like the person that kind of puts it all together.
Well, that may be the case, but I actually am the drummer.
Oops.
Yes. I'm out of here.
And I'll take over.
It's funny. It's funny because I knew that, and then obviously I totally blew it. Sorry, guys.
I'm not offended.
Well, he's just a drummer anyway, so we don't have to worry about it. No,
Bass
but
players are cool.
my bad. Steve.
How do we keep doing this every week when you insult people like that?
No, it's because it's a defense mechanism. Because I feel bad about what I said, so then now I got to really put him down.
Right.
It's a weird thing I do,
Okay.
My apologies, Steve, the drummer. But like as a drummer, but you seem to like obviously Ian was saying that you guys put the music together separately in your own studio. So do you have your own like big studio, or how does that work?
Yeah, it's just a basement studio. But it's our rehearsal space too. So it's, my drum kit's down there. I don't have to move my drums around when we want to record. But that's usually the process. I'll lay down the drums first, and then we bring in the other musicians to track all the other parts. But during COVID, it was obviously, we didn't do that. So Ian was doing his parts from home, and it was very challenging, but we pulled it off. And I think, the end result doesn't reveal that it was done under such, adverse circumstances.
Duress.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel like you weren't the only ones, guys. So.
No.
But it's interesting. Like, it's like I'm not a tech guy, but I could just see it happening where you're just kind of like, because you're recording in your studio, and the sound is probably not going to be the same as and then you got to make up for that when you're doing the mixing, right? So it's like, man, that would just be like painful.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was an interesting experience, right? And part of it there too was just getting familiar with just the process of recording and mixing. Period. So it was a bit of an education process now, which was fun. I mean, it's. Steve's got a lot more engineering experience. I've always had an interest in that side of the craft, and it was a good opportunity during being at home for hours and hours and hours a day there during lockdown to learn a new hobby type of thing.
New craft, yeah.
so yeah, it was interesting to try to make that work. And I think even if you listen to the 2 albums that we've done, there's definitely an evolution and just in the general sound and all that type of thing as well, right? But yeah, I mean, we made it work. Like, you know, you can always joke there's an app for that. Somebody created a way that you can like record multi-track at a distance.
Well, that's the thing. Like we all said that COVID was a terrible thing, but some good things came out of COVID, right? Like we got.
I find, and Brock and I sort of touched on a little bit on our own.
You did your own little podcast. Huh?
Well, I always talk. We chat. We love music. We talk about music. The thing is, I find with COVID, and Dog's right, and a lot of great music came out of that. And I find that the scene is really in Ottawa, especially, I mean, all over, but Ottawa in particular, because we're here, is flourishing, because it's like all these people had this pent up like time on their hands to put out some great, write some great music. And I think that the scene has actually benefited from that. Like many things have come, like you said, COVID was awful in its own way, but then many good things came of it for the artists, right? Like I think that, like not just musically, but a lot of the contemporary artists as well.
Yeah, no, so. I would agree with that. And Ottawa's, I find it's an interesting city from the perspective that it's small. It's not like a Toronto or Vancouver or Montreal, right, where there's a lot more depth to it. But it's also, maybe you could argue, it's a little bit more, not shallow, probably that sounds a little bit trite, but everyone in Ottawa knows each other.
Yeah.
There's only really a handful of venues that everyone tends to play at. And I think, there was a lot of COVID casualties, unfortunately. There's a lot of good bands that were around before the pandemic hit. But it's not uncommon to hear people say, yeah, like coming out of it, I think there was a lot of creativity to flourish during it. There was an appetite to just the desire to get back out in front of people again, and a lot of us, we made some really, really nice connections with people, even virtually during that time there too. Some people that we met, because we literally started to just play live shows right before that happened, right? So we maybe had like 2 or 3 shows under our belt, and then it was like right back to square one again. But we were fortunate coming out of the pandemic when things started to loosen up a little bit. Like we had some good connections at Live on Elgin. So one of our first shows that we did was there.
Yeah,
we opened up for Okies and another local band. And so we were able to kind of get some momentum going off there. But now, like, it's like you pick a Saturday night and you don't even know where to go.
It's true.
I think it was your podcast when you were talking about Rocktoberfest there too, right?
Yeah.
It was like on that Halloween weekend, there was like a boatload of stuff going on.
Well, you missed a couple.
There was the Dom. The Dom had a big show going on. There was one at the Brass Monkey. There was the one at the, there was like every venue that we've ever been to had something going on.
Yeah.
And it was like some really good local bands. It's like, oh man. And because we were already locked into the Rocktoberfest one, so we kind of missed out on a couple other of our favorite fellas and bands that were playing. And it's just like, and even like you say, even on a regular Saturday night now, it's like, oh, geez, like where do I go? It's like, do I go here? Do I go? No, it's a great problem to have. But unfortunately, if you like all these bands, it's tough. It's kind of like, okay, I saw you guys, 2 months ago. It's somebody else's turn.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So we also sponsored the event too, so it was sort of a thing that we wanted to be there obviously for that, and we saw Taming Sowery, which is a band that we kind of both like. I really like them, and obviously Dog does too. But like, they did a great job. Space Between did an amazing job. Great for their first effort, and they're like young. They're like super young, so it was great to see. Really great to see.
Yeah, it was incredible, and then. It's amazing because the bands kept building up. Like the first bands were like fire the first night. The second night was stupid because Rock and Engine was just like, they were just insane.
Well, they are insane.
They are insane, but their show was just off the hook, right? And then, so, you're coming up with the Space Between going, okay, so I guess we got to blow the doors off. And they did. Yeah. Like, it was just like,
awesome.
It was so good. Like, it was amazing. Like, and all the amazing bands that were there. And it was just, So, and we got so much in the city, and it's just, it's fun to go out now and just like, and say, hey, I can see like the new hires. They were great, and with the other band from Montreal, and I never remember their name. The trio from Montreal, and I can't remember their name right now.
Was that on the Thursday or
that was on the Friday?
Shit,
But they were so good too, and then Neon Ghost House, who
Well, we can talk about that because these guys are going to be playing with it.
Yep.
Yeah, because we wanted to bring that up. Sorry, it took like way longer than I expected to get the bass off that, so I could actually go back and forth with Steve. But
I'm not bothered.
yeah, I know. I feel like, all right, and we bring it all in there. So we'll talk about your show. Like you have a show coming. This will air prior to that, which is great. And tell us all about it. What's going on?
Yeah, so we are playing a show on Saturday, November the 18th at SAW. It's our first time at SAW. Spectrasonic is promoting the show. First time playing a show with Spectrasonic. So yeah, the bill is Neon Ghost House, Stoby, and Hannah Big. And yeah, we're really, really excited about that. It's going to be interesting.
Well, Stoby's
Interesting.
actually Brock, of course, got me onto Stoby. So like I was like, you got to check out Stoby, and I listened to them today, and they're fucking awesome.
Yeah, they're amazing.
they're like really good. Yeah, I mean, you guys are awesome too, but yeah. You're here, they're not. So it tells you all you need to know. So you must be stoked about that. Like that'll be a great show, and that's on what day?
That's Saturday, November the 18th.
Okay, great.
So it's a week on Saturday.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. So I guess we'll air this on Monday.
I guess so.
Yeah, we don't have a choice now. We got to promote their show.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
So what are you saying?
We're pushing somebody. We won't say who. We won't say who yet.
She knows. I mean, they know. I mean,
yeah,
what?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
SAW's a place I haven't been to yet.
It's pretty awesome. I don't know.
Yeah,
like,
I've walked by it a few times.
Like the venue itself is super cool. Like and you're right near the old prison, right? So yeah. It's really cool. Trippy. I think it's like haunted, man.
Oh, is it?
Oh, there's the haunted walk isn't far from there and stuff. Trips me right out. Last hanging in Ottawa and stuff.
Excellent.
We can get into that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll be there.
Yeah. Be there, brother.
I'll be there.
What's your musical influences? Maybe Steve can answer this one.
Well, speaking strictly personally, it's all over the map for me. Like, I hate naming names because there's just too many. And I don't know, it's gone from all the way from jazz to prog rock to, obviously the inevitable alternative grunge kind of movement that happened as we were maturing musically, and it's in us. It's just there, but it's kind of wild. Just depends on the day and my mood. But I spent a lot of time in my younger years listening to college radio, like CKCU and CHUO, and just for want of hearing new music, things I'd never heard before. So I discovered a lot of things through that, which was pretty cool because it was obviously a time before the internet when you could just call up Spotify and listen to 20 things that come after your favorite song or whatever, that was a real good thing for me at the time musically. But
it's funny you mentioned that because I find people forget about university rock like stations. We interviewed a person that's been doing it a long time recently, and she'll be out after you guys. That's
surprise.
She's amazing, and she's been around a long time. But yeah, she worked at all of the stations for the last 20 years or something. So, but it is neat. I obviously have a huge appetite for music, and when you hear what I like, you'll be like, "What the fuck's wrong with this guy?" But it's like you're right. It's mood, right? It's like how you feel at the moment. And I would imagine when you're writing and when you're putting it together and you get your drumming going and then you get everybody kind of involved. I think it's all about the mood. Like that's where the albums come from. That's where if you want to be in a better mood, you put music on. It's wonderful. It's like a therapy, really, for me. I don't know.
I want to know what Steve's day job is because he answered that question without actually answering that question.
He's in politics.
I think so. Yeah, he skirted that whole question. He never named a band or a person.
He's not a lawyer, he said.
Yeah, okay. Sure sounded like a lawyer speak there. So I'm gonna go and put you on the spot anyway, and you have to name your favorite prog drummer.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Honestly, probably, and I'm forgetting his name, but the drummer from Porcupine Tree.
There you go. I don't know his name, but I know the band.
Great band. Yeah. Insane drummer. I actually saw him live at a drum clinic here in town.
Cool.
Years ago, back when I was a fairly young drummer, or early drummer. Blew my socks off. And He's a lefty, which means as a right-handed drummer, trying to watch someone play the drums backwards and learn from that was a particular challenge. So.
No doubt. That's pretty cool, though.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, you think just seeing something different, right?
Yeah, well, for sure. Yeah.
Influence is next.
What?
Wait, why don't we turn the microphone?
All right.
Yeah,
Brock.
come on, bring Brock in.
Come on, Brock.
I feel like my man's missing out over there. You know.
Yeah, hold on. That was just heavy.
That is heavy. Influences. So I was had some time to think about this. Listening to Steve talk. Macro. 80s heavily influenced my musical taste, but I'm straight up 90s guy. Was living in Vancouver at the spawn of the grunge era. So, but to name some bands, huge Pixies fan, big Joy Division fan, but then obviously all the grunge stuff that came out, and I'm a big fan of the punk stuff too, Dead Kennedys and whatnot. So, but let me answer the question this way: what influences my playing inside the band? Because I think that's what's most relevant. And quite honestly, I'm a rhythm guitarist for the band. So I'm looking at Radiohead, Ed O'Brien stuff. I'm looking at Love and Rockets, which I saw before the Cure in '89, which blew my mind. So they heavily influence what I'm doing on the acoustic guitar. I do play what I do as a rhythm guitarist. I do play acoustic guitar inside the band as well too. We do have some acoustic influences in the band, and I'm looking at like everything from Our Lady Peace to actually Love and Rockets again too. They did a lot of that sort of background stuff. Mm-hmm. So I think I've answered the question. All right, well, there we go.
Sufficiently.
See, that's how you answer that question, Steve.
Steve again. Well, we do have to go back.
He's probably upset because you call him the bass
I
player.
know. I feel like shit about it. Trust me.
I'm going to ruin this whole interview because he called me the bassist.
Yeah. Here's an answer without an answer. Jerk. Yeah. No, I'm just kidding. Ian, what about you, Ben?
Yeah. So again, it does run the gamut. Like I'm not a very technical guitar player. So even though when I was much younger, I was very much into like bands like Iron Maiden and stuff like that, which I enjoyed from the energy perspective, but I could never achieve or replicate that as a guitar. It's just not the way that I'm wired. One guitar player that made a very big influence on me when I was young was The Edge from U2. I know U2 is an easy band for a lot of people to shit on, but a lot of early U2 stuff was very, was very simplistic, but very effective. Right. So that kind of captured my imagination a little bit there too. Like you didn't have to necessarily do these like ripping guitar solos. You could do something really, really effective. That also kind of got me down the sort of the rabbit hole of pedals as well. Like that was sort of my first exposure to like echo pedals and reverbs and that type of stuff. So like that atmospheric angle, which still exists on my board, and still it's not like a dominant sound in Class of 91, but there's definitely stuff under the hood there which I can trace back to some of those early influences. Peter Buck from REM was a big influence on me as well. Bob Mould was another big influence. Ian Mackay from Fugazi was another big influence. Reeves Cabrels, he played with David Bowie and Tin Machine there for a bit. Again, a very ripping fast technical guitar player, but man, that guy was making some bizarre, crazy, heavy sounds. So that kind of locked in there. So yeah, it goes all over the map there, but very much like Steve, there's like a lot of music that just taps in at the right time for the right reasons.
Yeah,
like you and I went down a big Peter Axiom Records and bands like Material, Bill Laswell. Yeah, so we said it was supposed to say Peter Laswell there, but Bill Laswell. A lot of the Axiom record stuff, which was a lot of like world influence type things like Material and Buckethead and all these different types of things there too. It was interesting and unusual and bizarre. But also like it was stuff that you sort of would trip across like accidentally because again, you didn't have like access to Bandcamp or Spotify and you said, I'm kind of interested in this. Like, you actually had to work to find stuff that was a little bit off the beaten path. So, like we'd find ourselves down at Shake Records on Laurier Street, like going through the bins there and stuff. Yeah,
I remember Shake Records for sure. So well, it's the same thing with like their college radio, right? Because that's where you're going to find a lot of that stuff is like on CKCU and the other. So I'm sorry, I don't remember the acronym for
CHUO.
CHUO. Okay.
OU.
Yeah. That's the Ottawa U.
Yeah, the way you, because that's because Anna Marie worked at both.
Yeah, exactly.
Sounds like that station's folding too. Eh?
I think so. Yeah.
They got
What a shame.
Their student union or something like that voted over some, like, I don't know, it was like a student fee. It made some the news there a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, I don't know why it's not staying. I mean, it's I think it's such an important part of music, but the problem is also, I think that the benefits of Spotify and others are good, but there are challenges, right? Because and SiriusXM too and stuff like that. I love all of them. I like listen to CKCU, and I listen to Sirius, and obviously I have my Spotify and all that. But it's funny how when we used to, I remember I was born in the 80s, so I'm a 90s musician, like music guy. That's where this question will go to eventually. But I was always tapes, right? I always got a tape. And even actually Trevor Alguire, who we talked about, you went to school with and you're friends with, he talked about how you rip that feeling of ripping the plastic off and like putting it in your car and all that. And I was like, yeah, that was me, man. I was totally down with that. So I do like the hard, like the actual physical, yeah. But it's so interesting when you ask that when we asked that question. There was 3 guys with 3 completely different music tastes and in the same band. So it just tells you everything you need to know. I love that.
Too bad Fred's not here because he'd go down a completely different rabbit hole.
Really, eh?
Lots of jazz, lots of R&B, lots of Motown.
Yeah. I love Motown.
Yeah. So,
I mean, Motown and R&B. R&B's got some of the funkiest grooves, so I can see a bass player liking that stuff for sure.
That's true. Yeah. Good point.
Thank you, because I knew he was the bass player.
Yeah, you did. Well, thank God I'm gonna hold this microphone like this because my buddy didn't bring one. Was there? How do you guys deal with like creative blocks or anything like that? Are you guys working on new music right now?
Yeah, we do have a new single that's coming in next Friday.
Yeah.
So we chip away at stuff, sort of on our own timetable, and that's the nice thing with doing a project like this is basically it's a hobby and it's a passion project, right? And we've been fortunate to be able to get some shows, get some out of town shows, and do that. But we're never putting ourselves on a really strict timetable for writing or how much we have to write at any given time. And I know that's an interesting question to ask musicians because you'll get like sort of the 2 ends of the spectrum. You'll have somebody that'll have like 500 songs in a notebook that's in various stages of construction. I'm kind of like the complete opposite of that. I'll have like one that I have to kind of like just chip away at until I'm happy with it. So it really depends. And it does become a little bit of a math equation as well from the perspective if, like if you're writing, then you're probably having to put a little bit more of a center of gravity on that than playing shows. We tried to get a lot of shows last year, which then kind of impacted our writing timetable a bit. Then again, being a DIY band that does all of our own recording as well, like you got to factor that in. So that's going to be at the expense of something else as well. So,
Steve, you mean? Like the expense of something else. Steve.
Yeah. He does the recording. I do the mixing.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing too. We've talked to a lot of different bands about their schedule of touring. Some bands like to, do one show, take a month, do another show, take a month, and then there's some bands that want to be out there every weekend playing.
Yeah.
And it just seems to be a different mentality between like some guys are like, we want to keep people wanting more of us, and we don't want to oversaturate people with seeing us every weekend. So which guys are you? Are you guys like the latter or the former?
Yeah, it's interesting because we played, this is kind of some loose math there, but we played probably about a show a month, every month and a half for a good period of time, most of them in town. But we've also found that as the scene opened up and there was a lot more sort of competing events happening at the same time, then you're sort of splitting the difference between stuff, right? So I remember Max from New Hires and I were having a conversation once just about like, what was the term that he used? It was like, what's your return on investment, right? Like, are you doing yourself and the scene any favors by being that band that's out there once a month, right? And maybe you are, but do people want to come and see you every single month? Or do you, like you'd mentioned before, do you want to sort of split the difference and support a range of different people, right? So it is an interesting.
Yeah, from my standpoint, like being a fan of the music and trying to support as much of the local stuff as I can, it's hard because it's like you say, like if I see I'll just use Winter as an example because we see a lot of them guys. Okay, well, I saw them last week. So, I mean, you guys are playing this week. Okay, well, you guys win because if I haven't seen the band that we've talked to on the show, I'm going to try to get to one of their shows before I go see this band for the 15th time.
Yeah.
So, and especially if they're giving themselves out a lot, like, it's just like, okay, guys, I've seen you, 10 times this year. I think that's, I think I've done my part.
Yeah. That's
Like, I love you guys,
sufficient.
and, I love you and stuff, but, I mean, there's other bands that I'd love to go out and support as well. So,
Well, but you also have a huge appetite for music, so it's like it's nice for you to see something different. Every
absolutely.
now and then,
Absolutely.
Actually, speaking of the new hires, they love you guys. They talk about you all the time. Did you know that?
Thanks, new hires.
Yeah.
They were fun. I was glad we got to see them.
Yeah.
At
They
the
were
Rocktober.
they wore like the Office Halloween costumes. I don't know if you saw that, but and he goes, the lead singer is like, I've never watched The Office, but I'm Jailbird Mike or whatever it is. It was fucking hilarious.
Their latest video.
Hey,
The video for New York City, I think, is the song.
oh, did they do that? Oh, they wore the same outfits?
No, I'm just raising that we were part of the video shooting.
Did they not write a song with you guys or write a song for you guys?
That would be news.
I don't know. Perhaps.
Oh,
And I'm not being coy. I have no idea.
Okay.
interesting. Sorry, I didn't hear you properly.
Yeah, it's all good. No, I was just saying when the new hires were shooting their video for New York City, they put a call out to local bands to come and be part of their shooting of the video because they had this idea of like involving, people just going nuts on a stage, in the video. So we went and I think it was the three of us that did it.
Yeah.
We partook in that. And it was fun because at the end of the video, they actually did a little kind of shout out to each of the bands, just like a montage of the bands in front of the camera. And it was cool.
Yeah.
It was very cool.
It is cool.
And that was a nice example of seeing a small scene.
Yeah.
Somebody putting an invitation out, everybody shows up.
Yeah.
So again,
it's true.
Ghost were there, Teenage Fiction, Just Fine, Guest Room Status. Like there was just a boatload of people there, just making a ruckus in this warehouse.
They're nice guys. They're very nice guys.
Yeah, super.
But it's true. Like everybody shows up for each other, which is nice.
Yeah.
It's nice to see actually.
Not a lot of ego going on, which is good.
No, it's, and we've mentioned that a bunch of times with different bands that we've like, so-and-so is playing. If the other bands are not playing that night, they're trying to figure out where to go.
Yeah.
Okay. So like you're kind of split between where they want to go see this band. They want to go see these guys. It's really cool to see it. They're not like, they're playing, whatever.
I'm sure there's some.
Well,
like
I'm not saying it's
but-
all,
and maybe we don't know who that is, but I think you're right.
we're not that kind of podcast.
I think 90% of it's probably 95.
I think
probably.
there's a lot of support.
It's great.
For the local stuff from everybody involved.
Yeah, it's good. What do you guys do in your own time, like private time, other than playing music?
Does the world care? Really?
No.
It's up to you. You don't have to answer, I guess.
I'll give you some. I sleep in a gazebo.
Oh, really?
And I know I get judged for this in all kinds of terrible
Deep
ways.
rabbit hole class.
Yeah.
Can you please elaborate a little bit, just a little?
I'm an outdoorsy guy, and I enjoy the outdoors, and I love camping. And when I can't be camping, I sleep in my backyard at home. So,
Like in this weather?
yeah,
Wow, that's great. See, like it wasn't that hard of a question. Why are you
Cheers
giving me a
with
hard
so
time?
you can be the center of attention.
No, I
this
really
has
don't.
got way more interesting. All of a sudden.
it's okay.
Tell us about the gazebo.
It's not like a typical gazebo with like 4 posts and a roof. It's got like windows and stuff, but it's not heated. So I'm out there in whatever temperature it is outside, and I have a pretty nice sleeping bag which I sleep in, and when I wake up, I feel like a new person every day.
That's awesome. No, I think it'd be awesome to sleep outside. I love sleeping in the cold. Yeah, exactly. Wow.
With our next album, Gazebo.
Yeah, it's exactly. Yeah, maybe you should write a song when you're in there.
Late jazz.
Yeah. Do you have a partner at home? Like,
My wife, the joke is that I live in the doghouse.
yeah. That's fair. Yeah. No, I think it's great. I mean, It's interesting. It was a good answer. I
was.
don't know. You're giving me a hard time, but like, does the world really need to know? Yes, they need to know that, Steve.
That's why you're here, Steve.
That's a phenomenal answer.
Vastly critical information.
Vastly, exactly.
Vastly.
Yeah.
That's going
What
to
about you
shoot our
guys?
viewership through the roof.
Yeah, I can't top that story. I find recently we have a new single coming out, so we've been like pretty locked in with music production stuff, show bookings, and all that type of stuff there. So that is literally my hobby. It's kind of tinkering around with various aspects of the music business. But,
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
So I'll turn the table over to you.
I guess I'll.
Not to be the most least interesting person in the band.
Brock's like, I think he's going to have
Steve's
a
tough
lot
to
of
beat in
stuff.
this one.
I sleep in a gazebo.
You're a barista, man.
Well, yeah. So I make coffee. And I love it. I love it. So that takes up a lot of my time. But no, actually, Steve or Ian and I make a pretty concerted effort to get out to bands as often as possible, especially if we're playing with a band that we haven't seen. And let's be honest, when you're out till 1 o'clock in the morning, it's the next 3 days are our payback time, right?
As we get older, yes.
As we get older,
Yeah.
So we do try to get out as much. I mean, I'm out here in Matick with you guys. It's a bit of a stretch out to Ottawa to get into the scenes and whatnot. So that's a pastime. You alluded to it earlier, James, as well too. I read a lot.
Yeah.
And I'm an outdoors guy as well too. So I just try to spend as much time outside as I can. Other than that, it's family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. And you said you lived in Vancouver like early 90s. Did you were you in Whistler or were you just like in Vancouver? It's proper.
Long story. I landed in, but yeah, essentially I landed in Vancouver proper. 92, we'll say. There wasn't a lot of money back then, and I think we're going to start feeling that kind of reality again here soon if we haven't already. So any aspirations I had out there kind of got sucked into getting food on the table.
Yeah.
But became a pinball addict, so I love Targ.
Of course.
Yeah, and they've got the Addams Family game, which makes me very, very happy because that would have been my staple in '92. That and Indiana Jones, I think, were my two games. Yeah, but I mean, anything I thought I was going to do in Vancouver, or anything I aspired to, like getting out to Whistler, and you get it to Grouse Mountain, you get to do the grind and all that kind of stuff. But you wake up one morning and all that music's there, and Seattle's just across the border, and I'm like, what? I think music's my path right now. And I had a Les Paul in the corner, I couldn't afford it. I had a Marshall amp in the corner, couldn't afford it.
Yeah.
Ate a lot of rice back in those days to pay for that stuff, and just let the scene. I mean, I saw bands like Moist come into existence through the scene in Vancouver. I remember seeing Biff Naked play with Chrome Dog back then.
Amazing.
Cadillac Tramps. I mean, all these bands just coming in. You had some really, really great venues out there. So anything I thought I was going to do in Vancouver really got consumed by what was the reality in the environment. Which was
what
music.
a great reality and environment.
Yeah, it was insane.
For a musician like yourself and like kind of like building what you became, right? Like that's sort of so cool. Did you see some of the bigger bands before they were big, like Nirvana or like Soundgarden?
Definitely. I mean, I think the biggest show I saw that's clear in memory, and I sort of go back to a lot, is it was Stone Temple Pilots playing with Butthole Surfers, which and I believe it was at CNE 93, 94 maybe. And I remember that one because the guitarist for Stone Temple Pilots had a broken arm, so he was in a cast, and
still rock.
Just seeing him pull this kind of stuff off, you can just see the professionalism and the talent to pull something like that off, right? So
STP is like my favorite.
Oh yeah,
honestly, like when I was a kid, like when I was like in high school, like I was all over it. I'll show you the jacket one day, Brock. But
nice.
I have, Uncle Bob, who used to own Fab 64 in Hintonburg. Like he was like a legend in Ottawa. He always sold those Hawaiian shirts and stuff like that. Anyways, he had this Scott Whalen jacket, like a proper like dinner jacket, but it was a Scott Whalen line, and you would never find it. And I said, listen, Bob, okay, whenever you sell this jacket, like I'm the guy, and then I went in there and I kept bugging him about it, I bought a bunch of shirts in the meantime, but eventually he's like, I'm moving to Hawaii and do you want the jacket? I said, yes. He said, okay, $100. And I was like, fucking right. I handed it to him like 2 seconds later. but I wear it everywhere. I wear it to all the shows. And
That's
it's
what I
like,
want to see.
yeah, I'll show it to you. It's phenomenal.
I
It's
wanna
like
see.
velvety. It's got
Oh,
SW on there. It's got the pattern on the back. It's
Yeah.
like, it's my pride possession. If I could just, if everything went, and that's all I want to keep, and then I
It's
could
just
start.
you in the ditch with
Yeah.
a
Yeah, me,
velvet jacket
and
on.
my twins, and of course my girls, and all that. But you know what I mean. Yeah, that's cool. Very cool. So is there what like inspires, like when you write, you're writing, you know, and like do you kind of, do different things that inspire you guys? Do you find that there's more nowadays, like because you're getting ready back into it and your mind's sort of circling back into it? Is that sort of?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. If maybe I could start with comparing the two albums that we put out so far. So Eyes on Fire, again, being a return into music, was much more, like the term I use, I don't know if it's the best one, but the term I tend to use to describe that one, it's more of a collage, right? So it's literally first cracks at songwriting in 25 years. And it's just the first thing that came out was this song. The second thing that came out is that song. And they're not really, it's more of they're more kind of like metaphorical stories on that one. They're not really about anything. They're not really reflective of immediate personal experiences. Maybe like there's like, you know, like I saw some weird shit over here at one point. And it's kind of interesting. I'll just put that and tuck that into a song at some point. But it is very much kind of almost like learning how to write songs again. And it was also, this is the first time that we're kind of like working together as a band to make a Class 91 sound off the back of some of these ideas. So Lost Stories is a little bit more, I mean, it's not definitely not a concept album or something like that, but there's definitely more sort of thematic things on there that are a little bit more on the chin in a lot of cases. A lot of our experiences during the pandemic are reflected in there. A lot of our observations about the state of the world are reflected on there. So it is a little bit more grumpy in some aspects. Yeah. And some songs are kind of polar opposites to each other, right? So if you look at the one song that we were listening to when we came in there, When We Fall, which is a little bit more that's a song about a relationship that is falling apart.
Okay.
But then if you look at the acoustic closer on that song, that's kind of the opposite.
Yeah, no, definitely. Is that the
Simple Human Love song?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was thinking
Golden Hour.
Golden Hour.
Yeah. So and Golden Hour is very much kind of on that sort of the nicer side of a relationship. Yeah. These Four Walls is very much sort of a study on a lot of the isolation that people were faced with during COVID.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you know, between our own experiences of elderly family members that were in like long-term care facilities and that type of stuff there too. So it's just about that isolation aspect. Whereas Hideaways is kind of the flip on that one, where someone who is enjoying the solitude of being able to walk around an empty city.
Yeah.
Right. So we kind of like pulled on sort of like those
That's great.
Threads a little
That's
bit,
great.
which was interesting. But I find writing music in middle age is a kind of an interesting zone to be in, because you can pull on decades of life experience and tease stuff out of there that kind of like locks in for whatever reason. But then you can also look forward at stuff that you're grumpy about right now. You're grumpy about going forward, particularly as you're looking at like our kids' generation having to navigate some of the shit that's going on in the world right now. And a lot of stuff that we have seen in the past coming back to live in the present again. Like some of the conflicts that are happening around the world and just different, just all sorts of crap that's going on.
That's cool.
It's a lot of songwriting fodder, if that's the kind of songwriting that you tend to gravitate towards, right?
Yeah.
I'm not very good at doing kind of like la-da-da type stuff. That's just not where my mind goes. I try to find something that's interesting and reflects our common position and set of experiences and stuff like that, and just try to make things work that way. So.
Yeah. No, it seems to, and does it ever? It's an excellent answer. I'm that's always something that I'm interested in, is finding out some of the roots, and that's great. It's really cool.
Yeah. No, it is cool, and that's a conversation that we've, I think, collectively had with a lot of our friends that we've made in the local scene. I'm always fascinated by people's writing process.
Yeah.
Because for me, I find it's not ridiculously difficult, but it's not easy.
No.
Like I can't be sitting there, like I wouldn't be like, sipping on a flat white down at Morning Owl and just like, oh, I have my notebook notebook here and I'm just gonna like fire out like 6 or 7 different song ideas.
Hell of a
like,
flat white though, like a
is
hell
a
of a flat
Come
white.
on, you don't sit at the Starbucks on your computer writing your songs.
No, we don't go to Starbucks.
No, I just thought I'd throw that. I had a question about like just the music itself. When you're putting it, like I know you guys, like a lot of people don't do hard copies anymore, but it's always been a curiosity of mine. Do you think a lot about what song's going to come first? What song's going to come next? You know what I mean? When you're putting the album together, how much time do you guys take thinking, okay, so this song is going to be we're starting with this one and we're going to end with this one. And then you're going to try and figure out the flow of the rest of the album with the songs that you have.
Yeah, that's a really good question.
I mean, it's probably better for you to answer because I feel like being the person behind the songwriting, there's more of a rationale to the sequencing of the songs, than it would be for one of us to do it.
Yeah, I mean, some of it definitely goes with flow. Like just to use Lost Stories is the most recent example. Some of the sequencing of it actually reflects the sequencing that when we play it live. We're really big at running songs into each other. Like we don't play a song and then I'm not comfortable in making small talk and jolly banter there for 30 seconds between songs. So we'll like literally run 5 songs, like one into the other one. So oftentimes some of the sequencing of that is reflective of like just basic bullshit. Like, do I have a capo? Brock and I have capos on our guitar. So we have a bunch of songs that have capos on the second fret. Well, guess what? All of those songs are going to be part of a little micro set going on there. So some of it actually comes off the back of that. And then some of it, when we put that one together, because some of the songs were looking at the same theme in different ways, we did kind of space them a little bit. So, and then the first one was just kind of like, I don't know. Just sort of like, that sounds kind of good.
That one, and then that one,
sounds
and that one.
sort of good in this order. It's like this one has an acoustic guitar. Well, let's put that one in just to break things up. And so there's a little bit of thought process behind it, but I don't think we're kind of in the business of overthinking it too much.
Yeah.
I think that's good. Like you don't want to be overthinking. You've already done a lot of work to get it done, right?
Yeah.
And then worrying about what order it goes in is secondary.
Yeah, and again, like maybe if it was like a concept album or something like that, or like a rock opera or something.
Well, you did kind of in that album, the LP. It's sort of it does have a bit of a flow where it goes, like you said, there was a yin and a yang in some of the songs, right? Yeah. So you definitely did that, I think. Yeah. Whether you did it on purpose or not is another discussion, but
yeah, and I think some of it, just to be totally candid, I mean, I'm sure a lot of it. With benefit of hindsight, this was kind of our plan when we came up with this one. So like a lot of it, I think was just like, and that kind of makes sense looking at it with the benefit of hindsight.
Yeah,
but yeah, it is an interesting equation to do, and I'm sure it's like something that.
I was just thinking that Steve might have something to say. Like progressive rock, there's a lot of thought put into on the albums because I'm a big ELP fan, right? So I'm just like. We're starting with this because it's going to hit us with this, and then they're going to come into this, and then we're going to finish with this, right? So I was always curious about any album. Actually, I'm just curious about like the setup of the songs for the actual product.
Yeah, I do think I believe, fully in an intentional sequencing of songs on a recording and on an album, and being that we're only 2 songs into our next release. It could be a whole different thing that we do this time around. Time will tell, and I don't know where the songs are gonna be. It's not my say, but
it is interesting because what we're gonna do is experiment by possibly half design, half not design. Is like we said, we do have one song that's coming out next Friday. We have another one that's in the hopper there. It'll probably be out in early 2024 at some point. And we're going to write some more stuff and kind of build an album as it goes along.
Like an LP, or do you want to do like an EP?
Yeah, it could be 4, it could be 6, it could be 8. I mean, we've done 8 and 8 so far. Yeah. Just a nice even number. It seemed to be.
Do 7 just to mess people up.
Yeah. I was expecting 8.
Well, just do 7, but make the last song 2 songs, and just don't record. Just don't put the
a secret track.
Yeah.
Like 10 minutes of silence there.
There you go.
Oh.
And then just say something.
Dawg would love that. Like Dawg's very much like we're both like I think we all are album people. Like, like how you No, I like singles too, but like, you know, albums, like you just remember that album and like listening to it from start to finish.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
a lot of people don't do that anymore. I mean, he gets mad at me when I'm in the car because I have a song that
Frustrating as fuck, man.
I have a song that I want to hear, so I have to like. skip
Yeah, but we
through a
don't even
bunch.
listen to the whole song.
Yeah, but then I move on from that.
He's
you
like,
know?
I want to hear this song, and about 10 seconds in, nope, I'm done.
Yeah, but it's the start. I just needed to start. No, but I do like listening to a full album if my CD's on or if my vinyl's on. I like that. But
Yeah.
I'd like to experience that with you once, to sit at your place and actually see you listen to a whole album.
well, my garage gym, you come sit down, I'll play an entire album, bro.
I'll bring one.
Yeah, because I have like an old, you know, those old Pioneer like CD players that like had like the CD that you put in like this, and then
Stack
like no, he's got like the 500 player
200.
or whatever. But like this one kind
200
of like
Sony,
slid
like
down,
carousel.
it was and then you put it back in and it goes back. It still works. So
Yeah, so and like Gus alluded to too, like with Spotify and stuff too, people are not, they're just, their attention spans are shite. So like you know, all the hard work that every band that we've spoken to, like all the work you guys do in the writing process, all the stuff that comes out, like, you know, your heart on your sleeve, writing these songs and stuff, are like 30 seconds. Okay, I'm done. It's like, it's ridiculous. Like it makes me mad.
But it's funny because when you were talking about like sort of like the tactile nature of a CD or a cassette or an LP, right? I mean, again, we grew up with, you went to the store and you bought
$20 CDs.
exactly right,
Those guys were crushing it.
you know, or a bunch of like cassettes or whatever it was, or you went to like some punk rock show and there's like, you know, some guy that
They made their own.
cassettes.
It's so awesome.
And it's funny to see
Yeah.
cassettes kind of coming back onto the
mhm.
scene again. It's just like, okay, that's interesting. It's a little throwback there to, you know, to late 80s and early 90s and stuff.
Right.
But,
Do you want to hear a funny, crazy story like that for like a trunk cassette guy? So my buddy goes to Detroit and he wanted to go see a band, and he ended up seeing this guy who was like a known guy in the area as a rapper, and nobody knew who he was. And it was Eminem, and Eminem had his own cassettes. That's how he got figured out by Dr. Dre and whatever else. But he still has the cassette in the plastic, like because he never opened it. And he looked on eBay, and it's like, you can buy it. I tell him, buy a house.
Yeah.
You know, like,
that is nuts.
which is nuts. But he said, no, it's mine. I love it. You know, like that, and that's great. You know, it's a great story.
Yeah, but
Paid $10 for it.
exactly. But like going to a show and
Yeah.
buying a cassette or you know, a CD or whatever a band is
Yeah.
selling, or going to like your local record store and buying a bunch of stuff that
Mhm.
maybe the guy behind the counter recommended to you.
Yeah.
Like you would go home and you would listen to that
Yeah.
thing start to finish, right? And yeah, I mean, with CDs, yeah, you could hit skip, or like, you know, on a cassette, you can like hold down the fast forward button and rip it through to the next
But
song.
you listen to it once fully, completely.
Great album.
Threw that in there for you.
Thank you. Thank you.
So just so you know, like, because there's usually, like, I find not every album I've ever listened to, but there's always a gem.
Yep.
There's always a song that's never a single
Yeah.
that's like so much better than half the stuff on the album.
Yeah.
And it's like, you don't get that if you're on Spotify and you're just like flipping through stuff every 30 seconds and stuff. Like, I found so many songs that I absolutely love by artists that are not ever a single.
Well, Steve alluded to that when he was talking about CKCU,
Yeah.
and like they would play those songs.
Yes,
'Cause
they
it's
will.
It's like that's kind of their gig. They just
Yep.
like to.
Well, it's college radio too, right? Like, they're always on the edge of, like, especially all the, like, you know, like the bands that are out there that are just playing like college kids.
Yeah.
You know, yeah. I mean, I never, to be honest, I never listened to CKCU growing up because that's not what I was into. I was more mainstream
Country.
guy. I was a mainstream guy. Didn't matter what genre. I was
Country.
more country, but I was mainstream though. More mainstream than I am. Well, a lot less now, but back when I was like 14, 15, it was all mainstream stuff for me.
Yeah, but that's kind of like, again, we had 10 radio stations that you could pick from, and like, you know, there was, I don't know, there's just a lot. I found that was, you know, music scene now is very much, you know, live music or Spotify, you know, or, you know, Apple Music or whatever, which is okay, but it's all, I like it because I think it's us as an age group also. We remember buying a CD. We still have some of our CDs. Dog has all of them. But we also use Spotify because it's easy, and you know, you can go through it. And I love the radio thing where you can kind of, like, you guys have a great radio, by the way. I don't know if you've noticed, but anyways, it's an interesting way of listening to music, but I think we could all go back to what we had, and you can play with both, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely there's advantages to both. I mean, like just by virtue of like listening to your, to a radio on Spotify or flicking something on like Super Shuffle on Bandcamp or something like that. There's like been like boatloads of stuff. It's like, well, that's cool.
I love it. I love that. Like, and then you
like
hear new stuff. Yeah. Like, it's very good
it's
for that.
super accessible.
CKC was great for that when we were younger, but like, and even now, but yeah, now it's very cool that that's an option. But yeah, no, I think for the musicians, it's a challenge because you don't get paid anything for it. Like you get like less than a penny per play or whatever. Yeah. Right. You're not living off that shit.
Yeah. That's why we keep pushing. Come out to the shows.
Yeah.
Come out to the shows, buy the
big
merch.
show for these guys coming up.
Seriously, come out to it. November 18th.
Yeah.
At SAW.
I think we'll go.
I think I'm already going. So
shit. Let's do it. Let's ask the question. I'm so excited. Ask. All right, I'll ask. So, gentlemen, we do a question at the end of every show. Okay, we always ask. There's an 80s guy at the table and there's a 90s guy at the table. So we like to see where everybody's at. So, are you an 80s or a 90s guy?
I would definitely say 90s. Yeah. I don't think I really connected with any of the music of the 80s. When I was in my teens, I was listening to The Who and, great music from before I was even alive, a lot of it. And I kind of skipped the 80s until maybe the end of the 80s. So.
When it was the 90s.
Well, Guns N' Roses.
Well, and Pearl Jam and Metallica and all those guys came out in the late 80s.
It's true.
It's okay.
Yeah, but it is okay.
Next.
But great prog music came out in the 90s.
I disagree.
So I'm definitely 90s, like just from my experience, but I can't ignore the fact that the 80s so heavily influenced everything I did. I mean, everything from, Bryan Adams' Reckless was the 80s, U2's Joshua Tree was the 80s, Pixies, obviously Fugazi. I mean, those bands are DNA, as Ian alluded to earlier. But when I think about who I am as a staunch Gen Xer, I'm 90s through and through. And I think
Gen X.
I'm buried in that stuff. So I'm a 90s kid. Nice. I mean, that's it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm not fighting you Gen Xers. There's too many of you.
Plus we're tougher than millennials, and
I'm not a millennial, dude.
You're a boomer.
I'm a boomer. A boomer.
Ian?
I'll split the difference on that one, actually. And it's not me trying to be awkward or indecisive or anything, but
maybe.
If I look at the tail end of the 80s and the front end of the 90s, I mean, if you look at 91 as a year of music, right? I mean,
great year.
How many monumental, now classic rock probably albums came out in 1991?
Agreed.
Well, isn't there like that 8-week stretch of like crazy Pearl Jam, Beastie Boys?
I don't even think it was a shorter time than that. It was like a really short time for all these amazing albums to come out in that one year. It was incredible.
Beastie Boys album was ridiculous.
Pearl Jam, Achtung Baby, Time by REM.
Yep.
Like you just keep going. There's like, I think Dinosaur Jr. had something came out in there.
Yeah.
Fugazi had something that came out in there. So there are like a lot of really, really crazy stuff. But if you like just using REM as an example, I really locked into Green, which came out in 88 or 89. I like that album more than I like At a Time, just for no particular reason, just that just resonated with me differently. Repeater by Fugazi came out in the late 80s. That album locked in pretty heavily with me. I was introduced to that one by my cousin, and it just blew my mind. I had not heard something like that before. And that got me down that bit of that rabbit hole. So there's a lot of stuff in the late 80s that really influenced me, but then I like a lot of the stuff that was at the front end of the 90s kind of there. So again, it's sort of about that peak between the two.
Oh, you mean your band's called Class of 91, so you gotta
stop it. Stop it. Just because you didn't like clear all three, you're just angry.
I'm not angry.
Okay, and I agree with Steve too. Like the 70s, progressive rock for me was 70s. It wasn't the 90s. It was the ELP. It was Genesis. It was, those are the progressive rock bands that I liked.
You love ELP.
I do. And Bauhaus, which was not progressive rock. I know you do, because that's why, cause that's became Love and Rockets, right? So
Yeah, exactly.
but no, we only picked the two because we couldn't. I mean, the '60s were amazing.
Everybody,
the '70s were
everybody
amazing,
loves
you know.
everybody loves the 60s and 70s.
Yeah.
Right. And then, but I find like the 80s and 90s, like you have to either, I don't know. That's a better question.
But it was interesting. I don't know what you guys' positions are on this, but I distinctly remember, if like just using the 80s as an example, and you could probably make it into the 70s and earlier there too. If you listen to, I don't know, if you listen to Bruce Springsteen as an example, or if you listen to, you know, this band or that band, you couldn't listen to this band or this band, right? You couldn't enjoy punk rock
Oh, yeah,
and
yeah.
classic rock at the same time, because that was like oil and water, right?
Yeah.
That was not permitted in the lanes of music, right? Whereas now, a lot of stuff that I probably either by design or whatever ignored, going backwards, I'm like, that's actually super interesting, and that didn't resonate with me as a younger person, but there's some really, really interesting stuff under the hood there.
That's such a truth. It's. I remember walking through high school. The stoners are all down at one end of the school, and they're listening to
Motorhead.
Motorhead. They're listening to all the heavier stuff, right?
Yes.
And this guy listening to, like, you know, anything from the
April
80s.
Wine.
April Wine, baby, it's my band. But like, I'm thinking like Johnny Clegg from South Africa, like with the Scatterlings. That was an amazing album. But I love that stuff. But, you know, you get down that hallway, and you're right. And I couldn't like that stuff. I hated that stuff.
Although,
And now I love it.
But that's the 80s. The 90s,
Yeah.
you were allowed to do whatever you wanted.
Yeah.
You were like, I listened to The Chronic, and then I would put on Super Unknown.
Okay.
And then I would go back to the Beastie Boys, and then I'd put on, you know,
Well, it just explains how
Puppets.
much better that you are. Than
I don't know.
me.
You know, the Meat Puppets were sick too, by the way. Brock, did you ever see the Meat Puppets? I knew he would have. That guy's a legend over there.
Yeah.
Legendary. Listen, gentlemen, thank you so much. Class of 91, everyone. Go see them on the 18th.
Yeah, next Saturday
Yeah, Neon Ghost House, Stobie, and
at Saw. It's going to be awesome.
very like a great lineup. And then, of course, the lads here. Can't wait.
Going to be great.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.